Hello, good morning, and thanks for joining us again on another fabulous Kerfuffle panel webinar. I'm joined by our friends Pernilla and Robin from Property Stream, aka the 22 Group. Hi, Pernilla. Hi, Robin. How are you doing?
Hi there. Good to see you again, David.
Hi, all good, thanks.
And of course, I'm joined by their client and my guest, Mr. Mark Meyer. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm good, David. Thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
It's great to have you all here. We were talking a little bit off camera there. There was a lot of love in the room there. Clearly, you and Robin over the years have developed a very close relationship in terms of the evolution of your brand, Mark, and the work that Robin's done. We deal a lot with sort of supplier relationships with their agents, and it's fair to say some of them work better than others. They don't always end up with everybody being mates and singing off the same hymn sheet, as it were. But you guys seem to have your values quite aligned, don't you?
Absolutely. So I've been working with Mark around 6 or 7 years, and I think what works so well is how we can be that honest with each other. So we've become friends, but that allows us. So I can be honest with Mark if I think he's making a mistake, and I have done in the past, and he can be exactly the same with us. So if there's something that he's not happy with, he can WhatsApp me, and that's I think that's it's not always possible with clients, and sometimes people will advise against it, but I think that's definitely helped with our journey.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a great amount of trust between you and me, Robin. 22 have been essential, if you like, to help clarify the message that the brand wants to get out. And the only reason that's been possible is your ability to understand what it is that we're looking to achieve, and your ability to translate that into design work, which type of adorns our brand. It's been a great journey so far. Not always easy, but it's been worth it.
It can sometimes, it is like giving birth to a new identity, really, when you're launching an estate agency brand, and to get that tone and the look and the feel of it correct, because very much what you're picking there in terms of your images also portray the values of your brand and the values of your business. Now, Mark, I know that your business is very friendly, it's very bright, it's colorful, it's approachable. But one of the first things that strikes you looking at your boards and looking at your website is these fabulous animal avatars that you've got there, which I understand have meaning as well. But it's not just a sort of the first friendly face that you see, but it is something that really sort of warms the heart to your brand, doesn't it?
Yeah, so when we first started, we wanted a new vision of estate agency, and I know everyone's used that line, but we're determined that things must change. And in order to do that, we've used this army of avatar animals, if you wish, that Robin's devised with me I'm sick to death of houses, and agents use keys and houses and people with boxes on their heads with smiley faces. And I think it's much more about people's individual journey and the animals. Robin understood that we're trying to create a new world of agency, and the animals live in that world. That's how Robin type of unpicked it with quite a lot of conversations we've had. I mean, hours and hours, Robin, of defining what it is that's type of in my mind, and I don't even know it really. And in the end, Robin type of delivers recently a panda, which will be a new animal for my own office, just to keep things on the street fresh. And what we really wanted was boards not to have a brand and just to be basic, but to have art on the side of the road, which can change. So our boards have changed, and the animals change, just to keep people intrigued and to keep the brand message just keep on resonating out and out and out. And it's good for Robin's business that we keep needing new animals as well.
Absolutely. And it's but I think one of the things that is really quite nice about that, and this is something that I found over the years with working with brands, especially with franchise organisations, is there's a fine line between saying from the top level down, right, you've got to stick with this consistently. But people have their own personalities and they like to be individual. So yeah, if you can at least give something to the franchises where they feel this is mine, this represents me, this is a little bit different, it sits within a wider brand context, but this is my own individual animal, then it can go a long way. And I found that over the years a lot with sort of branding projects, that if you can tap into that, if you can ask your franchises for their opinions on things, then it can really make all the difference. And that's what we seem to have managed to achieve between us, is to stick with the Mayors brand, but keeping the franchises feeling a part of that brand.
And Mark, how important is that to you as sort of running a franchise operation? Very often when you see some of these more corporate franchises that sort of grow larger and out of control, but they become very sort of faceless. They don't have a personality, and you can walk into I was almost about to pick a brand name there, but you can walk into a brand name in any city in the UK, and you'll pretty much get the same personality, same service, and in a lot of ways it's faceless. One of the things that you've managed to do is you've taken a little bit of your personality and your philosophy, but you've also allowed your franchisees to choose their own path almost in terms of getting their own voice out there. So it doesn't feel like just a faceless corporate entity. It feels like a family-run business, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think, David, yeah, you're right. And the word that you used there is personality. So for me, I've learned over the years that my brand is an extension of my personality. So, some of the board designs have got deep meaning for me, and they type of come to the surface whether or not it makes sense to others. But I've just recently brought in 2 new franchisees, and one of them built a tiger through Robin, which was immense actually, and she just that's an extension of her personality. So she begins that journey with this type of little motto or whatever, the image, and Patrick put on. He built a lion, and I was like, wow, I never thought of doing a lion or a tiger, but these guys stand by. And Tasha had a butterfly, and Becky had a giraffe, and they all had deep meaning to these individual people. I mean, they might have a tattoo of it from when they was young or whatever, but it helps to create the spark of their own unique journey, which for me is just building people to their highest possible potential. But the brand, we keep the brand name against everything because we want the brand to resonate all the things you said earlier, David. And so we don't want to type of dilute it or just destroy it. We want to be able to keep it a very clean line. And Robin's understands that that the images are a critical part of everybody's individual journey. And actually, if the people are happy with it, I'm happy generally, pretty much always.
And is it something that sort of new customers comment on in terms of when they see your branding and you get called out for valuations, or you're having a chat with them before they come to the market? Do they sort of pick up on the images and how different it can be? Yeah, so a classic example of that is, David, you're right. We've got an avatar in our business that is our perfect client, and they pay a good fee and they expect a very, very good service. And that avatar is Tim and his wife with 2 kids of about sort of 3 and about 6, maybe 7. And the animals are for them, really. It's all for them. And I came out of my house not that long ago, and the car's painted with a big swan on one side and a peacock on the other side. And there was a kid and it had an argument with his mum on the pavement. And I was just waiting because I was like, I want to get in my car, but I clearly can't get in the car where there's an argument right outside my car door.
And then I waited, and I heard that the argument was that the kid wanted to see the swan, and the swan was actually on the site where the road was, and there was a lot of cars. And in the end, she gave in. She had to actually take the kid around the side of the car to see the swan before we would continue to go to school.
That's awesome.
And we had the traffic, and I had to wait, until he managed to sort that out. So what we're trying to do is create attraction for the right avatar. To be honest, it's marketing, but also it brings a little bit of joy. That's not so bad.
I slipped Mark £100, I slip him a tenner to say that story. It's
it's a great story, and it's lovely that because as estate agents over the years, I've been guilty of this. You sweat about your brand and how it's perceived, and is your logo friendly enough? Does it say I'm too expensive? Does it say I'm aloof? Does it say I'm cheap? Does it? It can convey a host of different values. And I suppose taking that conversation one step further, most people in their logos, they either have abstract images or it's something built around the name. But to actually have images of animals and use the word that was art, and they are very artistic, you could hang those on your wall in its own right. You'd be quite happy to have those. And so to have that, to me, evolves that brand definition one step further. It takes the conversation away perhaps from the usual stuff, and it sets the customer's mind at ease. The fact that young man was willing to argue on his way to school. I mean, my kids will find any excuse, but if it was to see the swan on the side of your car, as far as I'm concerned, that's job done.
Yeah. I would agree. One thing, Mark, that I think you've done so well, just to add to that, is within the challenges of the franchise infrastructure, to be able to do that, because as a franchisor, you're obviously got to be the kind of gatekeeper of that brand, and you need consistency. But the biggest way to get that consistency and the engagement and the trust from your franchisees is if they engage with that brand in a positive way. So rather than just say, here it is, just oblige, you're giving them something to actually buy into. And once they buy into it, they're going to trust the brand, they're going to trust you, and everybody's happy. So I think you've just found, and obviously in collaboration with Robin and us as a team, just a perfect solution. Because, I worked in the franchise network before, and those challenges are really real. So to be able to give them that brand identity, and also by doing that, you're localizing the brand in a really smart way, because that's something that people are really big into now. You don't want just national brands. It needs to be local. It needs to be independent, which the franchisee are. They're business owners in their own right, but belonging to that bigger brand. So I just think it's a great success story.
Thank you. I think that it has made the brand very easy to stand out. And because most of the businesses they're all off high street, you have to do a lot of work in the high street or on the street to make up for the lack of visibility. So brand becomes way more important when you're not in front of people, on the street. So it helps to type of energize the brand to a slightly stronger level. And I see the business as art anyway. So art is just a creation, isn't it? Any business, like Simon Weil knows, and Kerfuffle and the branding, it's just art. It's just a piece of art which is being created, and it will one day be destroyed, I'm sure. But at the same time, it's very important to me to be able to let people be creative, and to do that, you need the right creative people to work with, because otherwise you'll just end up with a total type of beans on toast mess, really. And it's very clean. It's been working really well. 22 have been awesome.
I'm just going to add there that although we've got these lovely animals, I'll also chip in there and say that my wife does them all as well. So we are keeping it close to home. And she loves. I want to say Mark needs a new animal. And she loves that. She loves animals anyway. So
I almost feel like buying a franchise right now, just so that I can have you design
so you can get your animal.
You could be the first Manchester-based one. That'd be amazing.
We can make you an animal, David. If you was going to have an animal, what would it be, David?
I was thinking penguin would suit me quite nicely.
Nice.
I do a bit of swimming. I've been known to eat a bit of fish, and I do waddle as I go down the road. So
Great.
Yeah.
See your penguin.
Oh, love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, write that down, Rob. Get a penguin on.
Already.
Yeah.
We'll change that normie branding over to a penguin. Yeah, we'll do that tomorrow. But the thing I was going to say, that although we talked a lot about animals, there is a bit more meaning to that, and there's a core set of animals there that actually represent the brand values. So it's not just cheeky fun animals. There is some meaning behind that, and that was the original thinking behind the brand, and we sort of stuck with that. That we've got the Myers brand values, and each one is sort of represented by. We've got a cool set, haven't we, Mark?
Yeah. So you've got a robin, which is we care. You've got the peacock, which is the core of the brand, which is extraordinary marketing. And taken basically, property is basically a marketing business. So the peacock represents that clear understanding that is what we have to do. And then there's with robin, there's these four core values: genuinely professional, which is a dolphin. And then there's a swan, which is enjoy the journey, because you want your clients to enjoy that, and your team and your franchisees. I forget the other one. That's a bit embarrassing. Proudly reliable. Yeah, the pug, which is proudly reliable, of course. So those four animals, and then the peacock is extraordinary marketing, are type of like the foundation stone of the whole lot. And the other animals are meaningful to the individual franchisees.
What I love about your website, I was checking it out. Yes, it's bright, it's modern, it conveys all the correct sort of things. It doesn't have generic images of people handing over keys and packing boxes and the usual. I saw Mark's face there. He shuddered when I said that. But it doesn't have that. And instead, the one of the things that I gravitated to straight away was you actually have a community tab as one of your main tabs across the top. A lot of agents say they're part of communities. They say they do community work, as it were. But to build that onto your website, I've not seen it locally. And to have that sort of stand out, to me, that attracted me straight away, because I think that if you're a brand without a high street presence, let's say, I think you need to be even more ingrained as part of your community in terms of visibility. So tell me, Mark, a little bit about your sort of community philosophy, how you get involved, and how perhaps Property Stream 22 Group have helped you with that.
Yeah, thanks, David. So when we first opened the business, it was 11 years ago, about 10 days ago. Me and Claire decided we're going to kick this off about 9 months before it opened. And it always worked in a hierarchy where there's a big boss owning a big company at the top, making all the money, and all the money would be made by the guys on the ground floor, and it would type of seep up to the top, and the people on the ground floor wouldn't really make much money. So we realized that if we were going to make the money, then we had I'm going to say no interest, but actually it wasn't the thing that we did this for at all. We did it to create time with our kids and to create a world. Now, I couldn't stay in agency the way it was, so I had to get out or change it, really. So when we were thinking about when we made the money, we would send it back to the community and back to agents who deserved a better time of it, rather than sending it to people who didn't care about us. So we've now got a project which runs, and we're hoping to get it to run in any area that wants it, which is called the GAP project, which is basically gardens and people. So in the town, you've got people with money, people who need to move house. You've got normal people, you've got people who need help. So instead of giving it to blokes who don't know you and don't care about you and have plenty of money anyway in big houses, we give it back a proportion of that to a community fund, which then brings the people who are type of struggling and alone and anxious and type of out there somewhere, and bring them into a social space through gardening and gardens, which we've got, which we maintain with the charity Dorset Mind. And Mind is a very good vehicle to deliver the mental health work. So there's people in minibuses coming down to enjoy those gardens who need help, who require something, and I was just tired of having people take so much out of agency for themselves. It's a very selfish business, so I couldn't be a part of that, and so has helped understand that. So community has become a very foundational point, and it would have been someone like Robin or Eddie's decision to put the community tab on to showcase that.
It's superb to see to see that active and active within your own communities, as opposed to sort of being sent elsewhere. You're feeding back into your really part of your neighbours' lives, aren't you? Really, you're getting involved at the heart of the community. And although we've got to be careful in our industry, because mental health is fast becoming one of those terms that is bandied around, and people are jumping on that bandwagon, but very few people are doing it in the way that you are, Mark, where you're actually seeking to benefit those closest to you, and outside of agency.
It was done for personal reasons. So I've suffered in the past from mental health issues quite badly, but my dad had nowhere to go. He was caring for my mum, and so I wanted to create gardens for him to go to, because that's what he loved. But he was becoming incapable of doing that because of his caring role. And then by the time I got the gardens just about ready to launch, he actually died. But it was still worth doing, so we did it anyway, because there's still my dad's out there, and they still will be there. So yeah. But it's got, I think, whatever you do in your business, you can't do it because someone else is doing it. You've got to do it because you've got your own personal reasons. But if you really want it to have a genuine power, like in a business, must be powerful. Otherwise, it won't be successful.
So Robin and Pernilla, in terms of supporting Mark in that sort of work and effort out there to get to communicate those values over to the public, more than just the avatars, you're supporting him in his marketing and getting that tone of voice right to reach that public. Pernilla, you'll be sort of more familiar wearing your kind of journalist hat with this. We've all got a story to tell, and part of marketing is telling that story. How do you work with an agent to build that up?
Yeah, I think Mark typically, what we've talked about, has set the absolute sort of optimum foundation for successful and really engaging and meaningful marketing, because you can build on all the assets that we've talked about, the animals, but the fact that they've got that meaning brings another layer to the whole point of the business and the marketing. And it means that you're driving, that there's so much behind that you're helping to drive that trust, which, again, coming back to that, we know that's so important right now. I think it was in the home buying survey that the Property Academy have just carried out. The results were again this year that trust is the number one factor that people look to when they're choosing an agent. So all the things that you're doing in terms of the community work, as well as the branding, it all kind of, it absolutely is. It's pivotal that all agents look to themselves and hold up a mirror and say, what can I do in that respect? But yes, you're right. So once you get the story right, we do an awful lot of work in documenting and making sure that those values are clear to the clients, and then we obviously work with them on bringing that to the fore through marketing. And that helps in a way that also brings consistency, which is another key thing we've talked about a lot. So we can offer right through from kind of building the foundations through to campaigns that go offline, online, across social, across Google, whatever it is, or flyers, even off, printed materials, I think is still very successful for agents. But making sure that it's consistent, that's the piece that we help them with. Planning it out, setting some metrics, and having a plan, a 12-month calendar plan is something that works really well with our clients as well. So yeah, we kind of offer that, either the whole piece, or we can offer bits and one-off projects as well.
So how was that at Hunters when you got something so huge and you got to portray that consistent brand message?
Yeah, well, that presented a lot of challenges, and one of the key things was when we brought on new franchisees, because the network was growing at such a pace. The brand itself was really, there was great buy-in to the brand, but every franchisee that came on wanted it to be localized as well, and wanted to make sure that the kind of independent element stood clear in the marketing. So that was a challenge. But as I said, doing it with localized imagery or finding what the story is of that franchisee is basically going to be key in order to deliver that out. And what Mark have done with this sort of the animals is obviously it's such a smart way to do that. But most others do it through, to talk about the personality behind the agent and the local area, and there's your unique story. You're always going to find something unique, but it is a case of digging deep at times, because we've said before, estate agency by the nature of what we do is very similar. You're offering very similar services, but it's about finding that. And I truly believe you can always find a unique story. Just got to perhaps get some help in digging a bit deep, and hence doing that exercise with an agency like us can often help bring it out.
I know it's a very popular model nowadays, sort of what they call the self-employed model or franchise model, Mark. But when you initiated this, when you came up with the concept, it was fairly new. It wasn't something that smaller brands tended to do. So it's a very brave and a bold step to sort of go out there and build a business. What led you down that route as opposed to sort of the traditional, I've got one branch, I'm going to get 2 branches, 3 branches, and I'll just slowly start to sort of mark one territory?
Great question, David. Well, firstly, I'm going to argue with you about that. I think that the world of self-employed agents is at the very dawn, actually. And I think if you go to Australia or America, it's part of the mainstream way of doing things. And the agents are mostly earning over 100K a year, which is what you expect to earn doing this job. Doing these amount of transactions that you can do. And I just think that it's still a hideously undervalued business with corporates buying out independents way back in the end of the 90s, and then just keeping things very, very black and white and quite never changing, really. I think we're way behind the curve in the UK, and I think probably we've probably got 60% of the way to go, at least 70%, probably more. Because agents who are good they just don't want to get up in the rain and go home in the rain and earn just enough to pay the mortgage. It's not necessary. So I've got a family in Australia, and I'm fascinated by agency. So I knew that agency in England was just totally wrong. So I just had to do something. And if I'm really honest about why I built the business as a franchise business, so I suffer from bipolar. So I know that I might not function for periods of time the way I'd like to. And so by building a franchise business, if I'm not well, my family will still get paid. So it was a subscription business, I'm being really honest, that I needed to build to keep the income coming in if I failed, which I have done a couple of times, and it has worked. So, but more importantly, it's got to be a win-win-win. So if I fail, I've got to win, but my clients, my franchisees have got to win, and the clients who deal with them, the people that run my businesses, have to win. So it seemed if I could open a business from my garage on type of 12.5 grand, which is what what it costed. We still sell the franchises for exactly what it cost me to get the business up, because it seems fair to do that. Then I thought if I could do it, and I wrote the documents on how I did it, then anyone could do it, and everyone who's done it through us has succeeded. There's been no failures of franchisees at all. Nobody's failed, which is all I want. So I'm not trying to be a big business at all. I just want clients to have a win-win-win. That's all.
It's a very sort of touching and inspirational story, because most businesses, you're quite frank with your own struggles and the reason why your business is set up in that way. Most of us aren't as honest, Mark, and I admire that. It takes tremendous courage. It really does. And I suppose having that background, your franchisees know that this is more than just a faceless corporate entity. It is somebody that understands their personal circumstances. Let's face it, this business of estate agency, I've been saying this for years, and I know we've spoken about this privately one or two times, but it's particularly hard on agents sometimes. It's just the nature of the work. It's the nature of how we get paid in this country. It's the nature of how agencies perceived. If you haven't got broad shoulders, really, this isn't one of those industries for you. But we all have moments where those broad shoulders don't get us through, and we end up needing a bit more support. And I suppose your franchisees know that they've got that support from you from a personal point of view. You understand the circumstances, but that this whole network works best when you're all supporting each other.
Yeah, that's exactly right, David. So, I need their support. I do all the training, pretty much all of it, and starting off with the beginning where I tell the truth about everything. I'll tell the truth about why we started and how and what we do. But I'm also extremely ambitious, and I want great things out of life. And I think agency is full of really difficult emotions. Most of the clients we deal with are going through the worst time of their life, and there's nowhere for us to vent out apart from at home or something like that, or it blows us inside out. So it is very difficult in this country, and the system's completely broken. We have to carry most people on our backs half the way through it. But what I've found, what I love the most is I looked at one of the groups. There are different sections of our business, so depending on what your goals and aspirations are, we put you in a different section of WhatsApp network, if you like. One of them, I looked at my phone the other day, and there was 46 WhatsApps, and I thought, my dog had died or something cool. And I looked, and it was just literally one group communicating massively, helping each other out. So if somebody's not well, the other people will take their phones and help book their viewing. So, and we all look after each other, so we're never alone. And that's all part of the structures that we built from the very beginning. So it's got to be a business where your clients always supported, actually, and if you're not well, they still need someone to pick up the telephone, and we've managed to create that. So
and you only have to look on social media, Facebook or whatever, to see that support that they all have with each other, and like that's something I bought into right from day one, was just that caring attitude that Mark and Claire had for their franchises, and you can see it's offering that something that's different. It's that freedom to earn some money selling houses, but also to have that sort of freedom to have more choices in life, to live the type of life that they want to. And I really bought into that from day one, and I think that's helped with the creative and the branding and the message that we've helped Mark with along the way. Is the fact that I totally agree with what he's doing. It does help when it comes to branding. If you 100% support what your client is actually doing, then it can make it easier.
I suppose
I feel that support from Robin, by the way, all the time. And sometimes if things aren't going right, I will get a message from Robin. He gets it, and he somehow knows. And yeah, I've always felt 22 have just been an immense business to deal with.
Thank you.
They are great, and it's good that you clearly have shared values. I mean, Mark, your values are spot on. They're great values to have. Any one of us would want to emulate that, but it's easy for us to say that. Very few businesses manage to put aside their own corporate needs and prioritize individuals in the same way that you have. And you're getting a little bit of love here from Mr. Jason Tebb himself from On the Market. Great work, Mark. Inspirational to see a brand stepping away from the norm, and one which has developed its own personality and individuality. Some other generic Facebook user there is sending you love, and Ellie Rose and Mark, you are an inspiration. those aren't normally comments we get on our sort of panel webinars, because we don't get this level of insight into sort of the personality behind a brand. And I suppose I'm not going to give them pure credit for that, but Property Stream have helped to do that once again.
I think what it is a conduction. I've got all these great ideas, but just talking to the wrong person, that it's not going to go anywhere. So Robin conducts it out, and type of lights fires, which I find very hard to get away from sometimes. So, but they've been what we needed. Sometimes, like Robin said, I didn't understand it, and I'm learning, and we've learned to build exactly what we started off with, that word trust. And we have to live our values. We have to live those values. If we don't live those values, we need to get them off the wall and rebuild those somehow.
Robin,
I think it's really good that you say that, actually, Mark, because there is so much talk, right? It's almost, you can't let that trust and honesty become just a tick box that isn't just a new tick box for agents. That is just, and I do fear for that sometimes. So I think it's almost a challenge out there to agents to bring your issues and your concerns and your real challenges to us, and we'd love to work with clients to really create something new as well, and rather than just kind of do it as a process with similar to what most agents do, because again, there are so many opportunities there to just challenge that stigma that still exists around estate agents, if we're honest. But like you said, your story is so genuine and so bold, and I commend you for being so honest. I think it's been amazing. But again, a lot of people, we know that behind closed doors, a lot of people are suffering with all sorts of things and have challenges behind their businesses. That again, we could help bring that to the fore, and it will be something that would help them.
Yeah, I think we underestimate everyone's lives. It's just so hard. Building a business in the country is extremely difficult. And if we don't accept that, then we're always just going to be papering over the cracks and smiling when we don't smile. It's not a very nice environment to wake up and try and be someone you're not every day. And I just cannot do that anymore. I'm just too old to bother. But I also need to learn how to live a life well, and I honestly hope for our franchisees that they can build a business that someone else runs and they don't have to be there anymore. And that's the model that I've taken, and I work 3 or 4 hours a week and someone else runs my business. That's what I want for my franchisees. They don't need to stand there turning over this thing the whole time. It's not necessary. They just need to know how to go through that entire path. And we do know that pathway, and we're living it here at Myers. That's true. And the animals are each person's individual journey to that end, if that's what they want to achieve. And so we got to build, these people. You got to build them up, and you've got to believe in them and help them and be there for them. And the brand curation, if you wish, it's me and Robin brand curating all the time. And if it goes off brand, I soon hear about it.
You do. I know I only mentioned it the other week, but it's but I'm going to say it again. It's that because it means a lot to me how Mark came back to us around 4 years in. You'd gone from one franchise up to at that stage 9, 10, 11, and you said, look, we need to mature this brand because we've got so many bright colours, and that was great in those early days, but we've matured as a company. And can we have some help with this? And you were because you're a really creative person, and that's great, and I am as well. But one of the things I've found about being creative is it's quite easy to get inspiration from different things, and I'm always looking for the next project and the next shiny whatever it is, and you'd seen some different illustration styles, you'd seen some different bits of creative that had inspired you. And you were quite tempted to, as a maturing brand and company, to go off in a different direction. And it was very clear to me from the offset that that would have been a bad decision, because I think more importantly, the brand's working in your town, but you're thinking this franchise model, you're going to new towns where people haven't seen this brand before. So why would you go and do something when you've got something you know's worked particularly well in your own town, but also the franchise is so far. So although we did mature the colours and we did a lot that you can do without completely reinventing the wheel. And that's something I think I'm probably most proud of.
Though, Robin, for you and Penella too, because part of sort of your job and your role as sort of marketing support for these agents, on the one hand, you want to be their biggest cheerleader. So you want to say, oh, that's a great idea, Mark, that, but I've seen too many marketing companies who just take every idea that the client gives them, cheers them on, and they end up not working out. And where do you find that kind of discipline to be able to sort of step in and cheer him on the one hand, but on the other hand say, hang on, I think you're making a big mistake here?
I don't know, because if you think about it, I probably could have earned a lot more money if we had completely changed the direction and chosen another illustration style. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's instinctive. It comes from the heart.
I think it comes from the heart, but it's also, again, it comes back to the values. I mean, we've got a set of brand values, haven't we, Robin? Which you and I talked a lot about when I first joined, a year ago. And one of them is kind of straight talking, and that is what we like. We are, and that's how we want to interact with our clients. And I think, Robin, you are absolutely the first one to tell people that's actually a crap idea. You are, and maybe that has lost some money. But I do think doesn't it come back to that trust and the genuine aspect of any business, that if you do it just to make money, perhaps that's just not good enough. So I think that's probably another answer for you, David.
I think that's probably
but of course you have to strike the balance, of course.
And in that way, the sort of marriage between yourselves and Mark is perfect, because not everybody's as open and honest as Mark's going to be about his feelings towards the industry, the business, his own life, and not a lot of people are able to voice it as eloquently as Mark is. There's a lot of people out there, we're probably guilty in this industry of being a very testosterone driven, earn 100K, become a franchisee, and it's all about the flash cars and the lifestyle, and we're selling values to people that, let's face it, it doesn't add any value to their own personal lives whatsoever, and we're possibly setting them up for failure. It's much better to come into an environment that's warm, it's loving, and it's okay to have weaknesses, and in some ways celebrate them and say, okay, sometimes I'm broken and it needs, I'm going to need some support, and businesses are like that as well. Not everything in a business runs perfectly. You don't get it right every time, and as much as we can have brand values, sometimes we forget those things. So it's nice to see that you are clearly sort of bouncing these messages off each other, and it's a receptive environment. Oh man, there's so much love in the room this morning.
For a Monday morning.
It's good people. Good people are the key in and out of business. Is good people. If you've got good people, then you've got no problem.
I don't think we can add to that. I think that's great. Guys, I'd like to thank you for your time this morning. It's been different. Every one of these that we do truly is a different journey. But I can see why Mark speaks so highly of you guys, and I can see why you enjoy working with Mark. And that's very clear to anybody that's looked at this morning. And anybody that has a challenge with voicing the sort of personality behind their business and getting that out there, highly recommend you get in touch with the guys at Property Stream, because I've sat on their sofa before, and they do go to you go to lengths to understand the customer's way of thinking and their kind of brand identity that they wish to project. And I've not seen that level of care elsewhere. So it's truly awesome.
Oh, thank you, David.
I agree.
Thank you.
And on that lovely, loving note, I'm going to wish you all a tremendous day. And I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but
it's raining. It's pouring down with rain. So
it's
this
really miserable
it's perfect.
Manchester where we are
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Pretty grey over here as well. Yeah.
And down in Dorset, the same.
Okay, well, that's the weather forecast for this week, ladies and gentlemen. But don't let that ruin your week. Take a little bit of the inspiration and the energy from this morning and make it apply throughout the whole week. Thank you for joining us, and everybody have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.